Today I am reviewing Ryan Humiston's YouTube channel. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Joe. Hope your workouts are going great this week. And if you haven't subscribed already, I'd really appreciate it. And today, like I mentioned, we are going over Ryan Humiston's YouTube channel. Now, the reason I'm reviewing his channel versus a program is because he doesn't sell any programs right now. And I thought this would be actually a little bit different change of pace, a good change of pace. And if you like me reviewing actual channels instead of the programs, or in addition to the programs that I'm reviewing, comment down below if you'd like to see more of these type of videos. Now, to get into his channel, Ryan is actually quite popular. He has over 500,000, maybe even closer to 600,000 subscribers right now, so he's very well known, and he's known for making very short, to-the-point type of videos, giving advice, like how to grow your biceps, your quads, or how to improve your squat, or things like that, very to the point. And overall, I like his channel. I think he gives off a lot of good information, especially the part where he just gets right to the point, unlike yours truly. But a lot of stuff he says I do agree with, and I think he can be very helpful for a lot of people. And if you read a lot of the comments on his views, a lot of people clearly like what he has to say and found what he says helpful in them reaching their goals or building on more muscle or strength or whatever they're looking to do, which is what we're all looking to accomplish with watching all these videos, something that can actually be helpful for us and somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. Now, does Ryan know what he's talking about? In a lot of cases, yes, I think he does. Like I said, I think he gives off a lot of good information, but having said that, there's still some things that I have feedback for, or things that I have a bit of disagreement with. Now, before I get into the specific feedback, guys, one thing I want to mention here is that Ryan is obviously on performance-enhancing drugs. And I have no issue with that. I don't care, honestly. I'm not criticizing for that. He can do whatever he wants, and just because he's on performance enhancers doesn't mean he doesn't have to put in the work necessarily to achieve the physique he has, or the fact that he has amazing genetics as well. But it's still something important to mention. Now, I have talked about plenty of other people who are on performance-enhancing drugs on this channel, like Dr. Mike Israetel, John Meadows, slew of other people, Greg Doucette. They are all on performance-enhancing drugs as well, and I've recommended you seeing their videos and the advice that they give out, and I like what they give out. The difference here, though, is that, say, between Mike Israetel or John Meadows versus Ryan Humiston is how open they are, not only with being on performance-enhancing drugs, but the type of information and advice that they're giving out. You see, Mike Israetel or John Meadows, a lot of the information they give is what the latest research would say about something and would help those who are not only on necessarily performance enhancers, but those who are natural as well. It covers pretty much everybody. The information that Ryan gives out may only end up being effective for a lot of those who are on performance enhancers like he is. And this is going into my first feedback here, is that some of the exercises and advice that he demonstrates I don't fully think would be optimal for everybody who's watching. One prime example for this is he made a video on squatting, how to optimize your squat and get stronger in your squat. And what he recommends in that video is actually stopping 3/4 of the way up when you do your squat, instead of going all the way up to full extension. This is something he found works best for him, he states, and maybe he found it to work a lot with his clients, and the reason he states is because it's putting on more time under tension. And that's fine, time under tension certainly is important, but having said that, it works because he's on performance-enhancing drugs and has amazing genetics. It's what he found to build his legs up really well. It doesn't mean it's necessarily gonna work for you. And to be fair to Ryan here, he talks about, in some of his videos, finding what works best for you and sticking with that. And he's just trying to give you some ideas here of what to find and how to find those. But, having said all that, there's some of you who will be optimal in doing full range of motion in almost every exercise that you do, if not all of the exercises, including the squat, including going to full extension. So there's some of you who are going to watch those videos, think you only need to go up to 3/4 of the way, that'll be optimal for you, when that may not be the case. Going all the way up full range of motion would be optimal for you. And I think he needs to explain this in full detail. See, this is one of the drawbacks with his videos being as short as they are. He doesn't go into enough detail sometimes, or an explanation as I think he should. I've also noticed in some other exercises that he's demonstrated that his range of motion isn't necessarily optimal either, and a lot of people can get the impression that they don't need to do that. But like I mentioned, some of you, if not most of you, especially since most of you are not on performance-enhancing drugs, will utilize or should be utilizing full range of motion. That'll be optimal for you to building an optimal physique and gaining strength. The second feedback I have is some videos, and he's had a specific video where he talked about how compound movements are not necessarily optimal, or he doesn't like them versus isolation movements. He thinks those are better. I have some disagreements with this. It depends on what level you are. So if you're an absolute beginner, are you going to be optimal at using just isolation movements? No. You should be doing compound movements. And by the way, compound movements doesn't mean it has to be with a barbell, like a barbell squat or a bench press or something like that. Compound movements can be something like a goblet squat, because it's utilizing multiple muscle groups. And a goblet squat, for example, is a fantastic exercise for anybody, whether you're a beginner or advanced, especially if you're a beginner, because it can help you utilize or realize how your body fully moves and get your technique right and figure out how the biomechanics specifically for you works. And the fact is, he shows some of his videos where he's doing compound movements, like the squat, the barbell squat, which he demonstrates and shows you how to do. That's a compound movement. So he's kind of contradicting himself a little bit in some of the videos he makes as well. The third area of feedback I have is when he's talking about light versus heavy weights. Now, he's made a couple videos about this, and he's basically made the statement that lightweight, utilizing lighter weight, is better than heavier weight. Not necessarily better in the sense that it's going to give you more muscle, but better in the sense that it'll be more effective for people. Partially, this is true. There's been a lot of research that has shown that utilizing lighter weights can absolutely be effective, and just as effective as utilizing heavier weights for muscle hypertrophy. Brad Schoenfeld et al., for example, has shown this in a lot of his research. But one thing he mentions in the research, Dr. Schoenfeld, is that it's only effective if the lighter weight is used at a much higher volume. In some cases, is gone to failure. This means that a lot of times when you're using that lighter weight, you need to be doing sets of 20, 25, 30 reps for some of this. And again, to be fair to Ryan, he does mention doing this type of volume for a lot of the exercises he demonstrates, but he doesn't fully explain the fact that for the lighter weights to be effective, you need that higher volume or going straight to failure for this. Again, another drawback with his videos being as short as they are. He doesn't go into full explanation for a lot of this, or what the research and science behind it is, which I think is very important for a lot of you to know. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with utilizing heavier weights. There are times where it can be effective for a lot of people. Some of you know, some of you yes. And you don't have to do everything at a super heavy weight. Obviously, compound movements you can do a bit heavyweight, but overall, guys, having a mix of the two is probably what will be optimal for most of you. Now, the fourth thing I have for feedback here is when he talks about progressive overload. Now, Ryan has a video too where he talks about how progressive overload isn't something you should be concentrating on, how it's not all that great. Where he talks specifically how increasing weight every week or something like that isn't necessarily going to be optimal for a lot of people, because you can end up screwing it up. You can jump up in weight too much, or like if you go to do a bicep curl and it becomes counterproductive. He has some good points with that, but having said that, progressive overload doesn't necessarily mean have to be huge jumps in weight. It could be increasing just 5 pounds the following week. Like if you're doing a barbell squat and you increase it to 5 pounds total, meaning a 2.5 pound weight on each side, that's still progressive overload. It's still progressing in heavier weights and going to help you. You're not doing a huge jump. But one other thing to mention here is that progressive overload doesn't just mean an increase in weight. It can also mean an increase in the number of sets and reps you do as well. So you can stick with the same weight the next week, you're just shooting for more reps. That's still progressive overload. And that could still be optimal for a lot of people. And that's, again, something that Ryan here doesn't really talk about. And the final thing here I want to mention, guys, is that Ryan has a lot of videos and a lot of them have great information in it, but he repeats a lot of the type of videos he does. Not necessarily information he talks about, but a lot of the type of videos. So for example, he has a ton of videos on how to grow your biceps, or how to grow your quads, or how to lose fat. He repeats a lot of it. And a lot of those videos have different types of information in it. And I feel like this can give kind of a wrong impression. So like I said, the impression can give here is that you need to change things up all the time, or from week to week, or a lot of the time, which isn't the case at all. And again, Ryan does mention that you should be finding what works best for you and sticking with that consistently. But somebody who doesn't see a video where he mentions that might get the wrong impression here and think you should try these new exercises each and every week instead of sticking what works best for you consistently week to week to week. So I think he needs to do a little bit better job in explaining that in each of his videos. So these are my main points when it comes to Ryan's channel. This is my review for it. I like a lot of the videos he makes, the information he provides. He gets to the point. Okay, he's obviously effective at training himself and is fairly knowledgeable about it. But there's still some things that I disagree with, some things that he's a little misleading with, or that I feel like he's can sometimes maybe give the wrong impression to some people. But at the end of the day, guys, if you found a lot of information that he iterates is helping you, then that's what's most important. But don't expect it to necessarily be the optimal information or optimal for you. This is why it's important to watch multiple channels or books or articles or stuff like that so you can get information from multiple sources. You can form your own opinion. Because looking at one person for just information can give you kind of a biased, really focused type of view, and that's not what you need in the fitness world. You need to read multiple sources, different type of research, so you can figure out what was optimal for you. And you're not going to get that from just watching one channel or information from one person. So I hope you enjoyed this review, guys. Again, if you want me to do more reviews of channels in addition to the program reviews, comment down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate that as well. And I will see you guys next week.